We're one of the only industrialized nations that doesn't offer paid maternity leave to mothers. But I feel like just social media tells us we can have it all, do it all, be it all. And we feel like as women, that's what we have to do. We need to be able to be with our kids full time while we work full time and not need anyone to help us. And it's an impossible ask. It's an impossible ask.
Everyone forgets the caretaker, right? Everyone is always worried about the patient or the baby, but they forget about the caretaker.
Well, I'm a big advocate for like spa day, little treats for mom, postpartum doula hours. That's a great thing to put on your registry to get some help. And they will come and they will clean dishes, they will fold laundry, they will wash your pump parts if you're pumping. It's not just about helping with the baby.
What's one thing you wish someone had said to you after you gave birth?
Oh man.
Today's guest is Alex Richardson, founder and executive director of Fourth Trimester Mission. After her own postpartum experience, Alex realized how many moms leave the hospital with a newborn, but with very little support for themselves. That experience inspired her to create Fourth Trimester Mission, a nonprofit dedicated to helping new mothers feel cared for, connected, and supported during one of the most vulnerable seasons of their lives. Through her work, Alex connects moms with resources like mental health support, pelvic floor therapy, lactation services, and a community that reminds them they don't have to do motherhood alone. I'm excited to hear her story, what inspired this mission, and how she's helping to change the postpartum experience for families in our community. Welcome, Alex. It's almost like we're just friends on here. I was just saying that, I didn't put it in there, but Clean Eats has been a part of your mission on this. And I was trying to put into how many years, and I was saying 4, but you just corrected me and said 5.
Yeah, 5 years. Clean Eats has been with us since the inception, providing some amazing meals for our mamas for their home visits. It's really incredible. And we're so grateful to have you guys be a part of what we're doing.
No, and we love it too. And, back then when I met you, it was like we were only doing like maybe 2 meals. Like back then we did family containers and kind of don't do those anymore like we do, but not. But anyway, it's been so great to see from the first day that you walked into my office until the version that is sitting in front of me today. And I want to hear how it all got started because I don't know if we've ever dived into that. So take me all the way back and tell me who Alex is sitting here in front of me today or how she got here.
Yeah, I think the fourth trimester journey started after I had my daughter in 2019, but going back further in my life, I see so many traces that kind of led up to that. Since I was really young, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I've always just had an educator's heart and been very passionate. I would make my brother play school with me, and every career day, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. And then I ended up teaching high school Spanish in the classroom for 8 years and online for 7 years, and just ended my teaching career, which has been a big shift. But whether I'm talking about health and nutrition and fitness or postpartum support, I feel like I'm constantly educating, and it's just a part of who I am. And on that journey and throughout my life, just reflecting back, I saw traces of how I've always kind of been more inclined towards the, I don't want to say forgotten or lost, maybe outcasts. I've always befriended people who were kind of on the fringes. Maybe they weren't making friends. When I was in high school, I started the EC Buddies Club at Ashley, which is where students would go have lunch with the students with really severe disabilities. Maybe they were nonverbal or, they had to be in a separate contained classroom. And it just makes sense that moving into this phase of life where I, felt so alone and isolated myself, and then seeing how mothers are really not taken care of in the American culture, in our society. I mean, we're one of the only industrialized nations that doesn't offer paid maternity leave to mothers. It's just really fitting that I kind of fall into caring for this category of people. I had my oldest, who is now 7, in 2019, and decided that with what I was making teaching and what daycare was going to cost, it was just not worth it to go back to the classroom. But I learned really quickly, I am not cut out to be a full-time stay-at-home mother. I have the utmost respect for women who stay home full-time and love it, but I was struggling. I was isolated. It was the loneliest I've ever been in my entire life, dealing with undiagnosed postpartum anxiety at the time, and just really feeling lost. I'm very much someone who likes to have goals to strive towards. And, I know there's childhood milestones, but those kind of happen on their own. It's not something you can make happen. And I like to make things happen. So I didn't get the care I needed from my providers postpartum. And then 2 years later, I had my son in 2021. And it was the same thing, rinse and repeat. I tore. They didn't tell me I needed pelvic floor PT. I sought it out on my own. They do a 10-question. It's called the EPDS. It's basically a screen for postnatal depression, but it doesn't look at other mental health disorders like postpartum anxiety. Postpartum OCD is something that a lot of mothers struggle with. So I sought out pelvic floor physical therapy on my own. I sought out therapy on my own. And then it was post-COVID, so all in-person groups had shut down. And I was like, there's got to be something for women in this stage of life. And I did research. I was like, what are fourth trimester groups in this country? Because if someone else was doing it, I was just going to start a chapter where we were. But the only thing I found in Arizona, there was one group called Fourth Trimester, and they served families ages 0 to 2. They were not focused on the mother, and they weren't highly focused on this stage of life. So I was like, all right. I sat on it over the summer. I had my son in May of 2021. And by September, I decided I wanted to start a nonprofit. I knew I wanted services to be free for women, and I knew that I could fundraise just based on, my love for throwing events. I don't have a problem, reaching out and asking for sponsorships. So I was like, we can do this and make it free. So we officially launched in January of 2022 with a nonprofit.
Okay, so the fourth trimester, I guess when I was a mother, this was never a thing. And I just recently saw a new mom, and she was talking about the fourth trimester. And recently I became a grandma with my oldest having a baby girl, and she's talking fourth trimester. So tell me, has the fourth trimester always been in there, or tell me about the fourth trimester?
So everyone knows you have 3 trimesters during pregnancy. First, you're feeling sick. Second, you feel kind of good. And third, you're like, get this baby out of me. Well, the fourth trimester is that 12-week period after you have the baby, where there's this term called, and I'm probably going to butcher it, matrescence. It's where baby is born and the mother is also born. And it's really in that time after you have the baby during the fourth trimester that we are being born as mothers and discovering this new form of ourselves. And I feel like that hits so hard in those 12 weeks when you're realizing I'm caring for this human for the foreseeable future. I'm feeding this human. I have to heal my body. You become a completely new person, and you can't describe it to anyone unless they have become a mother. And during that phase, so much is happening physically, emotionally, hormonally, that we need incredible support. And usually by the time baby hits 4-5 months, you start to come a little bit back to yourself. Maybe baby starts sleeping, maybe feeding gets easier. Hormones don't level out for 2 years postpartum. But usually by that point, coming out of the fourth trimester, you're like, okay, I am mother, this is my baby, and we're going to move forward in life. But that stage, that 12 weeks is so vital to what happens in a woman over the next, I think, few years.
I also love too, because so many of the women who come on this podcast, they are just the road pavers. You just said, there wasn't anything around here. I mean, even you go back to the high school and you created an entire organization around lunches with, the kids at school, and then coming to your second child, right? And then seeing that there isn't this, can I just ask you, what went through your mind at that point to develop an entire nonprofit? Because we think it's easy to do that, right? And we think that it's like a simple business mindset, but that's like, there's something in all of us that do that. So what do you think that is inside you?
I just am not I don't know if it's that I'm not good at sitting still, sitting on the sidelines maybe. I can't sit by and watch when I know I can do something. Maybe that's what it is, that I know I can make some kind of difference or positive impact somewhere. And especially when it's something that affected me so deeply. I feel like a lot of times our darkest days can be a catalyst into something huge that we are supposed to do in order to help other people. And not everyone is supposed to turn their darkest days into a nonprofit or a business opportunity, And I don't really know what it is that sets those of us who do it apart. If it's just like a higher calling or,
Yeah.
our inability to settle.
Before we get into the nonprofit, talk to me about starting a nonprofit, because it is harder. Like, it sounds really good on paper, right? Because I've done it, and it is not an easy task. And then even the aftermath of it in the bookkeeping and all of that. So just talk to me, like, how do you go about starting a nonprofit?
I will say, reflecting back, I'm very grateful that I didn't need to do something to make money. And I think that's why I went the nonprofit route. It wasn't something that I was like, I've got to start a business so I can make money. It was very much like, I care very much about this. And if and when I can make some money, fantastic. But there have definitely been times I've questioned, like, why didn't I go a for-profit route instead of nonprofit? But at the time, I knew nothing. I had never served on a board. I had volunteered for a couple nonprofits, and that was it. So I had to do a lot of deep diving. I knew that I needed to file paperwork, get a 501c3, and get a board together, because every nonprofit organization has to have a board. So I found women in the area that I knew that cared for moms, or who were moms themselves who were passionate about helping other moms. Jody Springer with Fit for Mom. She's been doing stroller strides in Wilmington for years. I reached out to her and she was like, yes, I'm down. And she's still on our board 5 years later, which is amazing. And then I had a couple mom friends. I had my mom on the board, which I realized later was considered a conflict of interest. So it was a lot of learning. I will say board development is also tricky. And there's so many facets, because you've got the fundraising, you've got the board, you've got your programs where you're taking care of people, all the back end paperwork and bookkeeping. It's definitely, you dive in head first and then learn how to swim, I think.
I know. And the problem with this adventure is that it is attached to the IRS. And so, none of us go into anything making it any malicious attempts, but boy, do they try to make you feel like you're doing something malicious on their end. And I guess,
oh my goodness,
we are probably, one of those that definitely are not doing malicious, but I'm sure there's other people on the other end to ask us all these questions. Someone has done that beforehand for them to ask these things. So it was like, kudos to you, and you're doing great. Tell me about the fundraising really fast on that too, where you're at or what you do.
So every year we have grown, which is incredible. I think our first year we did maybe $5,000, and then we jumped up to like $16,000. Last year was our first year we hit $50,000 in revenue, which is huge, because then you have to file the next 990 form, which is awesome for us. Thank God I have an amazing accountant on my board. Shout out to Amanda Luke, who is filing that 990 easy. But the board set a goal this year for 50,000, and my goal was 75, and we've already blown through the 50, which is incredible. But yeah, we have amazing corporate sponsors. We do a big spring brunch and silent auction every year. We've done a lot of events, like we've done a Botox and Bubbles event. We've done a couple of dads events. We're just really trying to figure out what is going to work and something we can keep in rhythm with every year. The first few years, it feels like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. So it's, and then of course we have people who are donating monthly, and I'm super grateful for them who believe in what we're doing and care for moms.
That's amazing. Because I just remember walking through that door that first day, and I was just like, whew, man, she's taken on a lot, and I wish you the best. And obviously the work has really paid off. So that's super cool. All right. So we have the nonprofit set up. You did walk through my doors that first day. Tell me what the first year of your moms look like compared to the group that you have currently today.
Well, I will say in the beginning, I was doing all of the home visits myself, which I am not a doula. I am not qualified. Now I've done a perinatal mental health certification through PSI, and I've grown and learned a lot about postpartum and mental health and even physical signs to look out for. But before, I was just showing up with an encouraging attitude and a listening ear and a willingness to connect moms with resources. So our first year, that was actually the first 2 to 3 years, I did all of the home visits. And then in the last 2 years, we've brought on postpartum doulas, which that's incredible. We contract them, and we've got some really amazing women who now do those home visits for us and bring their Clean Eats meals and the gift bags to these mamas, and they love it. And our new mama meetups, we have always held them at Elevate Co-working, which is where I'm currently sitting. It's an all-women's co-working space in town. And they've got a really nice room. We want those to be in a private space where it's just the mom. So if they need to nurse, they feel comfortable. We're not like at a coffee shop with a bunch of men walking around, or if babies are crying, it's okay. It's just a really safe, warm space for these moms to try and get out of the house with their babies. And a lot of our moms who come to these, it's the first place they'll go by themselves with baby when they leave the hospital, because they know this is a safe place. I just have to make it there, and then I will be supported. If I have to go help them get baby out of the car, I will, just to get them in the door. But, it started off slow. We started off with the meetups at my house, and then realized, we're going to need a space, and Maggie opened Elevate, and that's been wonderful. But we used to have these lulls where we'd have a big group of moms come in. It would be 5 to 12 moms. And then it would dwindle down to 1 or 2 moms for a couple months, then pick back up with another group of moms. For the last year, it's been incredibly consistent. We've had 8 to 15 moms at every meetup every other week. And we just started a next stage moms meetup. So for the moms who their babies start to get mobile and they age out of our new mama meetups, or moms who have a newborn and a toddler at the house and they can't bring the toddler to the new mama meetup, this next stage meetup at Happy House Play Place is the perfect place for them, because the babies can run around, the older kids can play, and then these moms can still find community, which is really awesome. We just launched that 4 months ago, and at our last meetup, we had 15 moms and over 20 kids running around.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
As a mom, and maybe it's changed since I'm still a mom, but back in my day, but we just didn't ask for help. And I know that there's still a lot of moms out there who don't ask for help or feel guilty for asking for help. Why do you think that is so common? And can you put your thumb on why we don't do it? And what would you say to the mom who feels like she should be able to do it all?
I mean, I definitely understand this, because I too am that mom who feels like I should be able to do it all. And it has very much been a humbling journey, learning to trust people enough to ask for help, because I feel like it's a guarded thing. But I feel like just social media tells us we can have it all, do it all, be it all. And we feel like as women, that's what we have to do. We need to be able to be with our kids full time while we work full time and not need anyone to help us. And it's an impossible ask. It's an impossible ask. And whether you're staying home or working or some mix in between, I mean, we all need support in this. We need help with our kids. We need help with our mental thought lives. We need help with our physical bodies, getting either into shape, back into shape, getting healthy. I don't know. I'm a big advocate of getting as much help as you possibly can.
What are some of the signs that a new mom is struggling?
I mean, there's some physical signs like immediately postpartum to look out for as far as like high blood pressure and stuff like that. But I think they do a really good job of preparing you for those physical signs of high blood pressure or like excess bleeding. I think the bigger concerns are like the more subtle things. Obviously, those are huge concerns, but things that may not be as attended to, constantly checking on the baby, all of the intrusive thoughts that you don't vocalize out loud, feeling withdrawn and not able to connect or feel anything. All these, I feel like it's all the internal things that we maybe don't verbalize that are so common. Like for me, I did not know intrusive thoughts were postpartum anxiety. I thought it was normal once you became a mom to think about driving off the bridge or your house catching on fire, or someone coming around the corner to like stab you. I didn't realize that those things could be helped with therapy. And that's one of the most hopeful thing about perinatal mood disorders is with the right help, you will get better. That's the motto. I think I probably even had a touch of postpartum OCD with just how constantly I checked to make sure baby was breathing and needing to do certain things to make sure in a certain order to make sure baby was okay, you know? I think really just more education on what perinatal mood disorders can look like and that the father can be affected by them too. And I think so many times we see our partners either end up frustrated or withdrawn, or maybe they're acting out more. Those can be signs of a perinatal mood disorder affecting your partner as well. So they're not exempt. This is a huge life change. And I do feel like as much as women get overlooked, men really get overlooked with their mental health when it comes to this transition into fatherhood. It's so huge.
I totally agree with you with that. And, you know, I think being new parents, we put so much stress, or not stress, but importance on the baby and keeping the baby alive, but we totally forget about mom and dad. And I kind of found that too, like when I went through that, but then also seeing it with my daughter, you know, I was just like, oh yeah, everyone wants to come and see the baby, but like, what are they doing to help the two of them? Because they're completely being readjusted, and the hormones and the dad being replaced because they've been their number one in a marriage for so long. And I was going to ask you, which you've just kind of naturally put it in there, but like you've had to have a great support system on your end too. And talk to me about what that looks like. Cause I know you haven't mentioned yet, but there is a third one that is in the household. Now you're a family of 5. Yep. And talk to me about bringing in a third and your husband.
Well, I will say my husband did not want a third. He was always, since we started dating, he's like 2 and done. We had a boy and a girl. He's like, this is perfect. And then I just, for a year and a half, it was like a roller coaster. I would give away baby stuff, say we're done, and then I'd get baby fever. And I'm like, we got to have one more. Then I'd give away baby stuff. Finally, I was like, babe, I can't shake it. I think we need a third. And he was like, all right, I'm going to give you 1 month. And we were, praise the Lord, pretty fertile and got pregnant pretty quickly. So he knew what he was saying when he said he would give me a month. And we got pregnant with Nathan. And now he's so glad because he feels like he's enjoying it so much more this time around. When we had our daughter, he had just started his first company out of necessity because his job had let him go because they were cutting positions. And so he decided he was going to start a company while we had our first kid and I was going through all my postpartum mess. And it was a lot of stress and he did not get to enjoy the baby days as much with the first 2. So he's really grateful for this third. He is an incredible partner and he learned very quickly that if he supports me, then I can take care of the baby. Because in those early days, he's like, the baby doesn't need me. Like you're nursing it, you're sleeping with it. What am I good for? You know? And then he's like, oh, I can take care of you. which is wonderful. And my mom is also in town. My parents are in town, and they're so incredibly helpful with the children. I mean, my mom stayed the night in the hospital while my husband went home and slept. So she's been with my babies since birth. And, she thinks she's a second mother, which is wonderful.
Well, you've had 5 years of amazing moms coming through your nonprofit. I'm sure that there are some stories that stand out. What's your favorite story or success, or tell me?
Oh, man. I think,
or maybe multiple.
One of the most eye-opening moments was one of the first home visits I did that was like not with someone I knew at all. It was like one of our first submission forms on our website. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this home visit. And it was definitely divine that I brought a doula with me to that visit because it was in an area of town I wasn't as familiar with. And just for safety reasons, I was like, come with me. And I made the mistake of asking, I don't know if it was a mistake, it was definitely meant to be, but asking a mom their birth story is an incredibly personal question that can involve a lot of trauma. And I did not realize that because my births were pretty standard. I was induced with the first two and, nothing too traumatic. I tore, but that was it. I asked this mom if she wanted to share her birth story, and she proceeded to relive some previous trauma that had happened to her that during her birth brought up the trauma from her childhood. And I was sick to my stomach because I grew up with very rose-colored glasses and very protected. And it's going to make me emotional. This girl did not grow up protected and was hurt. And her birth brought that out in her. And I was sitting there listening to her story, just gutted, and clueless as to how to handle the situation. And thank God that doula was with me because she was like, okay, are you going to therapy? What are some tools and techniques that work for you in therapy? Let's take a breath. Let's have a sip of water. Let's do one of those tools right now, because she was starting to get all flustered all the way up her neck. And oh my gosh, it was just shook my world. And I had to unpack that in a lot of therapy myself. But I learned a lot in that moment about how little I know walking into this and how much work I need to do and how much openness I need to have and gentleness with these women in this stage of life. Not that I didn't have that anyway, but it was just very eye-opening. And that mom came back later and told us how healing that was for her, because it was the first time she had shared her birth story. And she felt like she was able to release a lot in that moment. And she was so grateful for it. And I was just like, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
You're like, yay. Now I need to go decompress.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest moments. And I think one of the most fun things that has been for me being in this now for 5 years is the friendships that have happened. We have moms who met back in 2022, 2024, and they're still best friends with the moms they met at the New Mama meetups. And since you're meeting in that stage of life, your babies are going through all the same milestones together. Or if they're not going through the same milestones, you're like, oh, do I need to get something checked out? Are things okay? So that's been the coolest thing, is to see, so many of these women move here while they're pregnant and have no friends, no connections, and then they meet their best friends, and then they get to continue. Now there's so many things in Wilmington. I know you had Brooke on, who does the Mama Lottie's walks. A lot of our moms go to her walks, and then she tells her moms at the walks about our group, and the support and the mom community has just been blown out of the water really in the last 2 years, I feel.
I love that. And that was kind of like my question leading up to this, is that if you could change one thing of how our communities support new mothers, what would it be?
Well, I think Wilmington now has one of the most incredible mom communities. And we even hear it from friends who don't live here. They're like, oh my gosh, I wish I was there so I could go to the meetups or the walks or, Fit for Mom. Like we did a mom prom a couple weeks ago with them. And like we all got dressed up and just danced to DJ Milk and Cookies, who is incredible, by the way. And so my next goal is to make this something that can be nationwide so moms can start these new mama meetups in their cities and just have it be really low stakes for the mom who's just like, I want to have a little more community. I want to have it set so she's got the layout and she can invite moms over and start that. And for the moms who are like, I need more to reach towards, they can do a full scale set of what we're doing here in their community and start the home visits and do the fundraising and have the whole gamut. So we can create these communities in other spaces because it's so desperately needed nationwide.
So what if a mom is out there listening to you right now and their community has nothing? What would you suggest to them? Like what is something where they could go, or if they aren't able to start this nonprofit and do all these, what's something that they can do right now listening to this to help?
I feel like, Facebook mom groups can be the worst place in the world, but it's also an incredible place to start something. And just being like, hey, I am going to this coffee shop or this play cafe, or I'm going to be at this park. If you want to meet up, I would love to chat, and just make some friends. And I've seen people do that, and it's a great way to just start. And you have to be okay if no one shows up. I think it takes consistency and it takes time to build a community. You can't just do something once or twice and expect, this magical thing to happen. It really does take consistency and time. And I think that's something that we don't really like to hear these days in this instant gratification world.
No, I totally get that. And, that's one of the things for me too, is like consistency and being okay if isn't a home run on the first try, right? Because I don't care how many times you've done something or where you're at with status or whatever, like, you have to be okay with that and not give up on the first try.
Yeah. I mean, when I was first starting, I used to do these mom brunches at my house on Saturday morning, and I would get these platters from Publix and I would say, hey, any moms who want to come over, I will have breakfast. I'll have coffee. I'll have mimosas. Come hang out. And sometimes there would be nobody. It would just be me and my kids. And I'm like, well, we got a lot of food, It is what it is.
So tell me, you offer a lot of services, and some of them I hadn't even heard of until, I read your bio. But tell me about some of these services that you get women in touch with, and who needs those and why.
Yeah. I like to think of us as being just like a connector and really bridging the gap in postpartum care. Like, I want to get in there before you have your 6-week visit to check in on how is feeding going, how is sleeping, how are you healing. I think one of the most frustrating things for me was that I had a 3rd-degree tear with my first, and my doctor took a look at everything and she's like, you're good. And I went home, and there was going to be no way I was going to have a second baby if I did not get some pelvic floor PT, because it was a mess down there. And I found Caroline Keeler with Inside Out PT, and she took one look at me and she's like, you're a mess, in nicer words, but like, there's so much scar tissue that you need to heal. So I'm a big advocate for pelvic floor physical therapy for every single mom. And it should be standard of care, but you literally had a human come out of you, whether it was C-section or vaginally, you need support to help your pelvic floor heal. So really emphasizing that with moms, and like, if you are hurting, if you are leaking, all of these things can be helped. And a lot of, people don't like to talk about it, but that's why the new mama meetup is so great, because we can be like, what's going on with me? So big advocate of pelvic floor physical therapy. Any mom who's struggling with breastfeeding in any way, if she wants to feed her baby that way. Lactation consultants are huge, and we have some really amazing ones in Wilmington. And just the mental health component, like having those conversations to be like, oh, I didn't realize that these thoughts were that, or, I had my baby 2 months ago and I'm still crying every day. Is that normal? Should I be talking to someone? So connecting with different therapists in the area. We have some amazing chiropractors in the area too for mom and baby. And I think getting everything in alignment is so wonderful for both postpartum. So there's so many incredible resources. And even just like, I had suffered from such severe exhaustion after my second. I was like, what is wrong with me? And then I dove into hair tissue mineral analysis, doing blood work with functional medicine, and being able to heal my body and figure out what vitamins and minerals are missing, because we get drained after having these babies. And a lot of moms don't realize how much replenishing they actually need, especially if you're having babies back to back to back. I mean, I could go on.
No, that's good. And I think one of the big things too is like, just because you are a mom of 3 doesn't mean that everyone is the same too, right? I'm sure that each one of your postpartums have been different with all 3 kids. And just because you didn't maybe need help for the first one and the second one, like you're okay to ask for help on the third, even though you think that you're a pro. So is there anything between all 3 of your kids that you've seen?
So I'm not very good with change in my life. I resist it. I really don't like feeling or handling negative emotions. So anytime I have a big life change, I dip back into therapy, and I'm a big advocate for that, as you need it. I definitely think by the second and third, by the third, feeding was much easier. Feeding with my first and second was difficult and didn't come naturally, and I wasn't producing enough. And then by the third, I was like, oh, this is so easy. And, learning the tools from the first and the second, I was able to rehab a lot easier with my third physically. So I feel like everything you learn and get as far as asking for help becomes another tool in your toolkit for a future pregnancy or to help someone else.
Love that. Any final, I got a list of quick fires for you. I didn't tell you that ahead of time.
Bring it on.
Anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to touch on?
No.
You're good? I've covered it all. Awesome. All right. Just to start off easy. Breast milk or formula?
Oh, gosh. Whatever is going to serve the mother's mental health best. How about that? I think breastfeeding is wonderful, and I do think it's super beneficial for baby. But if it is going to hurt mom's mental health, formula all the way.
I was hoping that you answered that because everyone gets so much mom guilt on either one of those. And I think it's whatever works best for you and your baby. Mm-hmm. Best piece of parenting advice you've ever received?
Oof. Listen to your intuition. With my first, I was looking at every single mom group, looking at, all the babies who were born at the same time as my baby. And it was clouding everything about my intuition and my judgment for my kid. And shutting all that down was the best thing I could do. So listen to your gut.
Worst parenting advice you ever received?
Oh gosh, that's tricky. I mean, people told me not to co-sleep, and I loved co-sleeping. People also told me not to cry it out, and I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on cry it out, but you got to do what works for your kid. I mean, there have been a lot of things people have told me not to do that I'm like, I'm going to do what works for me, honey.
Well, hey, and that's a whole nother thing to be your own, advocate on that too. One thing every mom should put on her baby registry that isn't for the baby.
Ooh, I mean, I'm a big advocate for spa day, little treats for mom, postpartum doula hours. That's a great thing to put on your registry to get some help. And they will come and they will clean dishes. They will fold laundry. They will wash your pump parts if you're pumping. I mean, it's not just about helping with the baby. They can do an array of things to make your life easier. So postpartum doula hours, I think, would be key.
That's super good. Super good. Mm-hmm. What's something people think new moms need that they actually don't?
Ooh. I think probably, this is going to sound weird, but someone to hold the baby. I think they're like, oh, let me take baby from you. And you're like, no, I'm good. I need everything else done. I saw this Instagram post that said to put a list of things on the fridge. So when people come over and they're like, hey, what can I do to help? You can just point to the fridge and they can pick one of the chores. So then you don't even have to tell them. They can just choose what they want to do, whether it's dishes, prep a meal, switch over the laundry, clean a bathroom, whatever.
What's one thing you wish someone had said to you after you gave birth?
Oh, man. Well, I feel like I got a lot of encouragement. I mean, just having someone tell me you're doing a good job in those early days was enough to make me sob my eyes out. Even now, I think I could cry. Just like having someone say you're doing a good job is life-changing in those early days when you are sleep deprived and struggling. And yeah.
I think that's another thing is like everyone forgets the caretaker, right? Everyone is always worried about the patient or the baby, but they forget about the caretaker. And that's awesome. 3 words that describe motherhood.
Oh, unpredictable, beautiful, and emotional.
Fill in the blank. Every mom deserves
peace was the first thing that came to mind. You deserve to have some peace, whether it's time away from the baby, peace with your baby, mental peace, physical peace. You need that, and it will make you a better mother when you figure out how to best find it for you.
And the final question, if you could sit down with yourself during your hardest postpartum day, what would you say to that version of Alex?
You're going to make me cry. I remember walking around my neighborhood with my baby in my carrier and just crying because I was so lonely and not sure if and when I would crawl out of the pit of loneliness of early postpartum. Oh. And, I think I could try to tell me that it's going to get better, but I don't know if I would have listened, or that you're going to make an impact on hundreds of moms' lives, but I would have been like, sure, I don't know.
No, I am super proud of you, and I am grateful that you walked in my door that day and let Clean Eats be just a little bitty part of the movement that you are creating. And so how can they find you?
Well, Fourth Trimester Mission is on Instagram, Facebook. We've got a website. I'm LexRich89. If anyone wants to connect on Instagram, I'm happy to connect and chat about entrepreneurship, life, motherhood, anything.
New moms, go check them out, join a walk, come to a meeting, do whatever you need to do, and especially reach out for help if you need it.